Building a modern single-page application is incredibly fast, but getting that app safely out the door, whether for external client review or embedded into a legacy platform, often brings development to a grinding halt. If you get this deployment step wrong, the consequences are immediate. You risk resource conflicts that crash the host site, or you introduce vulnerabilities that expose your data. Historically, teams have been stuck with two flawed options. You can use traditional shared hosting, which practically guarantees resource conflicts, or spend hundreds of DevOps hours building a custom pipeline from scratch. This quadrant chart maps out the landscape of deployment platforms. The horizontal axis measures speed to deploy, the vertical axis measures security and isolation. Notice how the upper right quadrant is entirely empty. Teams usually compromise, trading security for speed, or vice versa. Xuda SPA deployment was engineered specifically to fill that exact gap for the enterprise market. The technical foundation of this platform is VPS isolation. Instead of putting your code on shared servers, Xuda runs your SPA on dedicated infrastructure. The immediate result is the automatic generation of standalone, shareable URLs for every single deployment you run. But the real question is whether this specific, heavy-duty approach is actually necessary for your team, or if it is simply just engineering overkill. Because choosing a front-end deployment strategy requires matching your infrastructure architecture directly to the strict operational and security demands of your business. Let's break down exactly what you're getting and giving up with Xuda's approach. This matrix evaluates Xuda's trade-offs, starting with its core infrastructure metric, shared versus dedicated. The technical reality, SPAs run in complete physical separation from one another and from any embedded host site. This guarantees zero resource conflicts and consistent performance under heavy load. The trade-off is complexity. You have to abandon simple one-click hobbyist hosting and commit to a more robust premium architectural tier. Next, we will evaluate delivery and accessibility. Looking at the second row, delivery method. Developers receive instantly generated standalone URLs that function directly in the browser or as seamless iframe embeds. This eliminates staging friction, letting agencies share working previews in seconds rather than weeks. However, relying heavily on iframes means your UX team must design the SPA impeccably, ensuring it doesn't visually clash with the host platform's native design. Xuda forces development teams to level up their deployment architecture to enterprise standards by prioritizing absolute reliability and frictionless sharing. Behind those shareable URLs is an invisible but critical layer of access control and backend connectivity. This third row highlights CORS enforcement, or cross-origin resource sharing. The technical reality is Xuda utilizes strict domain-based configuration. The application physically rejects any connection or embed attempt from an unapproved host. This provides foolproof security, ensuring no unauthorized third parties can steal or embed your application. The trade-off is governance. Your DevOps team must strictly manage this approved domain list, adding a permanent layer of configuration to the project. Finally, let's look at the development ecosystem. The final row of our matrix shows that Xuda SPAs come with out-of-the-box support for the platform's proprietary authentication, real-time synchronization, and AI workspace tools. Because developers don't have to string together disparate third-party backend services, deployment velocity accelerates massively. But utilizing these built-in tools creates a degree of vendor lock-in. This may deter teams who prefer a highly modular, mix-and-match tech stack. Ultimately, Xuda provides a highly secure, heavily guarded bridge designed specifically for handling complex integrations and highly protected mission-critical assets. The value of Xuda depends entirely on the specific deployment friction your team faces every day. This decision tree flowchart helps identify your specific use case so you can see exactly where you fit. If your team needs to safely embed modern apps into older legacy portals, you fall into our first segment, enterprise and mid-market CTOs. For this group, Xuda is a highly recommended high ROI choice. The VPS isolation prevents the exact resource conflicts that normally derail these integrations. If your primary bottleneck is generating quick, secure previews for external stakeholders without building staging servers, you map to segment 2, agency owners and dev shops. Xuda is an excellent fit here because those instantly generated standalone URLs drastically accelerate client approval loops. Finally, if your project is a simple, standalone blog or personal portfolio that will never be embedded elsewhere, you are in segment 3, solo developers, and hobbyists. My recommendation for this group is to avoid Xuda. Paying for enterprise VPS isolation and strict CORS enforcement is completely unnecessary for simple static sites. You are better off sticking to free-tier shared hosting. By intentionally trading the simplicity of basic hosting for dedicated isolation and controlled access, Xuda SPA deployment serves as the definitive infrastructure choice for teams that need to scale, share, and embed their applications with absolute certainty.